Okay.
Good Friday morning. Welcome back from a U.S. holiday. For those of you that celebrated, or for those of you who didn't, may have had a quiet few days off last week, we're back at it with another edition of Account-Based Friday. And we've got a special guest joining us from Canada today, Julie, who Meg will give a formal introduction in a moment. Each week, as you know, we start off with a poll. And this week, we thought we'd do something a little bit different and take a look at Insight Venture Portfolio's latest research in and around customer retention and post-sales coverage. And as we were going through the 120-page hymnal that they had produced very recently, one slide in particular jumped out at us, which was all of these percentages. And I think the percentage that jumped out the most was this red box, customer marketing in the post-sales support side. Only half of Insight portfolio companies actually had the function. And knowing how important NRR is these days, or retention, because growth is so challenging, wondering if this metric will shift. But I don't know, Meg, what was your reaction when you saw that number?
Yep. Well, a couple of things. One, I'm actually sort of pleasantly surprised to see that 52% have dedicated headcount for customer marketing. That's a super important area, and one that, every year I say more companies are going to be focused on customer marketing, and it seems to grow very slowly. But at least we're here. We're past the halfway mark, so I'll take it. But what really stands out to me is, let's connect the dots on implementation and onboarding, customer marketing, and customer education. What is the most important thing to do after you sign a customer? It's making sure that you set them up to get the impact that they want. All three of those boxes are things designed to help customers get the impact that they believe they can get from you. And customer marketing is the force multiplier that helps you to do that in a cost-effective way, not just throwing more bodies at it, which is very expensive and also tough when you've got a lot of turnover in staff and things like that. When you put those things together, it says that we've got a long way to go when it comes to making our post-sale engagement that leads to expansion and retention, that is the sort of lifeblood of SaaS and any other recurring revenue model. We're under investing in exactly the engine we need to be, focused on to make sure that our businesses run profitably and grow efficiently. And that's what makes me super happy about having Julie here today. Julie Persofsky is formerly managing director at Winning by Design, with an amazing background in customer-oriented SaaS businesses. And I can't think of anyone better to talk about how to grow a business from the customer side. And Julie, thank you so much for joining us today. And before we get started, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your new venture, and congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me. This is an exciting topic. I love talking to marketers when we can try to blend the role and the responsibility of marketing and customer success, and try to ignite some excitement around how marketing can help scale customer success, can help get customer success to be a little bit more innovative and creative, and really driving that revenue. So it's really great to be here. I launched Achieve Exponential Growth a few months ago with sort of the mission to help sub 20 million ARR companies. My passion is entrepreneurs. My passion is helping companies see what they don't know. If I've worked with hundreds of companies, and very quickly I can see, hey, here's a quick win. Here's a way that you can really drive some more efficiencies. Here's a gap you're not seeing. Or if you keep doing this and you grow your company, these small problems are going to become really, really big, and here's what to do about it. So I'm having a ton of fun working with some really amazing founders and companies. And speaking of great people like you.
Well, thank you, Julie. We're excited to have you here. And curious, what do you think about the numbers here? What stands out to you? What don't we know looking at this?
Yeah, I think that it's great. I will give we all have this negativity bias. So my initial response was, where's marketing, right? Like, okay, you got one box here and it's only 52% of companies. And I would say Insight portfolio companies are probably some of the most sophisticated, right? They have a lot of support, and they know a lot. So I think that's really great. But only 52% of them have any customer or have any marketing support and functionality post-sales. There is so much that marketing can do to drive revenue from existing accounts. And we know that in the past, like if the past year's taught us anything, leads are slowing, budgets are being cut. And so where is marketing to support all of these different functions that are driving your retention number, your profitability number? So that's what stands out to me.
Yeah, I hear you on that. And I think one of the challenges we see is this sort of overemphasis on marketing's role in pre-sale, really still looking at it as the function that brings leads to sales, right? When the reality of a healthy recurring revenue engine is that it's all about what happens after you buy to make sure that people get to impact. And I think changing the minds of the C-suite and boards and investors about the need to invest in that post-sale has been slower than I think any of us on this call would have liked, but that's sort of the reality. But Julie, one of the things that I think would help to change the mind of some of those people holding the budget, and help, allowing marketing to move in there are um, is some of the work that you've done around thinking about customer success as a revenue creator. And I would love for you to talk about that because I really haven't seen anyone else in the market take the same angle that you have on the right way to think about customer success and the risk of cutting customer success in tight times. So to me, it's sort of a chicken and egg problem. Like if you can get customer success acting as a revenue center, you might then have more of a hope of getting marketing resources aligned to it. But let's go back to, how do you think about customer success's role in a recurring revenue engine, and how do you look at them as the revenue piece of that? What would you advise founders to think about in the companies that you're advising?
Yeah, the first and foremost thing I would say that I see founders view customer success as early days, especially, is support. And so, yeah, obviously you need to support your customers from a technical standpoint, but the customer success function, I would think about it as an extension of your sales team, right? In terms of who you need to hire, the seniority, the expertise, what's the persona and the key traits of those people who you're looking to hire, because really they're responsible for reselling your customers, especially early days. I was actually, probably unique in this sense. When I joined Influitive, I was the first non-technical hire, and I was customer success. We didn't have sales. We didn't have marketing. So I had to do sales and marketing too, but I did it from the standpoint of customer success. We had a bunch of early day customers using us. They weren't paying us. So my first and foremost responsibility was trying to figure out what would actually make our customers pay. What would make them want to put some money down for this product they're getting free, and understand what impact they needed to achieve. And so I was the first salesperson in the sense that I converted all of our existing customers over to paying customers. So if you think about that, how the power in that, right? Get your customer success team to generate revenue. Okay, well, now this is something interesting that boards are going to start caring about. Well, how do we do that in more of a traditional sense? Okay, sales comes in, they sell a bunch of new logos in, we pass it to customer success. There's this there's almost like this expectation that we're going to sell customers and a percentage is going to churn. Like, why are we okay with this? I get it. Like, businesses go out of business, or, and so there's going to be, this uncontrollable churn, and especially in certain industries. But, we should almost say, hey, look, we want to retain 100% of our customers. What's it going to take to do that? Because if you think about it as every year you've got X amount of revenue up for grabs to generate, your revenue for your organization, well, maybe we think about it in a bit of a different way. And then what about if 30% of that can be net new from your existing accounts? Okay, that starts to become a really interesting number too, right? So it's shifting that thinking around, this is just, we're just going to renew it, right? This is just an easy thing. This is revenue we already have in. We are not, what's it? When we used to buy like on-prem, but we are not on-prem. This is like, we have to work to renew our customers because they can just cut it, right? And so it's work, and think about it as net new revenue every year that you're generating for your company. That's a really great way to think about it, because then you're going to shift some resources. Now, we can't fully shift all of our resources that way because we still need the logos coming in. There's another really interesting slide on the insight piece. I don't know, John, if I might have to find it again, but they pose this question of, would you ever not sell to a customer who you think is going to churn? And that's always an interesting debate, right? So I'll sometimes work with customer success teams and they're like, man, we just shifted gears and sales is just selling, right? They're just going, they're selling all these customers and they're not necessarily customers who are going to be successful. But we want to hit that new logo number, right? We want to be able to report that number to the board. Sales leaders, you got to hit your number no matter what. But if we're working together as a team, what's the actual cost to your business to support those companies, right? How much resources are you spending to save accounts that are the wrong fit in the first place? And then how much time and attention are you taking away from your existing accounts who will be successful, who could grow, so you have that ripple effect. Anyways, that's some of my thinking. And it looks like the snowblower has stopped. So.
Yeah, no, that's great thoughts. And I can pull up that slide if you happen to know the slide number, I can pull it up. But as you were talking about that, it spurred a thought about kind of the focus areas of a marketer, and retention is probably an underdeveloped muscle, as Megan points out. And there's probably different flavors of retention, right? You've got probably revenue retention, logo retention, upsell. Like what's the right definitions? Maybe we should start there. And then where should the marketer kind of focus within those definitions? I guess it may be situational too, but in terms of like, what should they be paying attention to KPI wise that perhaps they're not paying attention to?
I'm going to give you an example. So I was recently working with a company and they were not going to hit their numbers. Shocking. This could be any company this year. There's very few that have had great Q3s and Q4s. But, I looked at their existing accounts and I said, hey, what if we actually drove a marketing campaign targeted at your existing accounts with almost like an offer they can't refuse to try and, jump on some of the expansion opportunities, right? And we did that. We picked, a small subset of their existing accounts that we thought had huge potential, and we did a targeted campaign. And this was easy. We rolled it out in 2 weeks, right? I think it was over 50% of the customers who they targeted took advantage of this opportunity, right? So we looked at our existing accounts and we said, hey, let's think about them as qualified leads. What do we do here? Or let's think about them as your pipeline, and let's drive a creative campaign or initiative towards targeted those people and drive revenue. So if marketers have a shared goal around revenue, whether it comes from new logos or it comes from existing accounts, I think that's a really, marketers know that we all know that marketers are measured on revenue. And then the second piece is we are, if you're an executive in a team, like sharing an NRR or even a retention metric and making sure that we are constantly selling or constantly, promising our new customers, right? Think about it. The first message that goes out to marketing is, hey, we're promising that this is what we can do. Well, let's learn from customer success and figure out, hey, do we actually do that? And what is the actual impact that our customers are getting? And let's shift our messaging and let's start there. So that way, when they actually become customers, the promise that customer success helped deliver is something that was actually promised initially.
Yeah, setting up for renewal starts in the sales process, right? If you make promises you can't keep to companies who aren't in a position to get there, you're just setting yourself up for a really bad situation. So I hear you on that one, Julie. And I think too, one of the other areas that you've really tapped into, there's sort of two things that I think you've really hit on that are important. One is this idea of customer success as a growth center. But then the other is is NPS really the right way to look at where you're at with customers? And I think this is a really super important question because, I haven't talked to anyone who would argue that NPS is the perfect metric, even when you use it perfectly, which a lot of people don't. So that's part of the problem. But if you use it correctly, it still maybe isn't the perfect thing to tell you where you're at with your customer relationships. And then so that you can feed them back into a customer success and engagement and marketing process that allows you to retain and expand them. As you think about NPS as, I think a lot of people want to use it as an early warning system, but it doesn't really work that way.
No, it's
What
not.
what are you thinking about and what are you recommending, especially for earlier stage companies who need a way to understand where they stand?
Yeah, I think, and I just published a LinkedIn post about this, and um, look, if companies could stop doing NPS today, I think we'd all be better off, right? There's diehards. I'm probably going to get some hate messages about this, right? But the NPS is such a false metric. It's unbelievable how quickly and how dedicated the B2B SaaS world is to this metric that actually achieves pretty much nothing, right? It's such a vanity metric. It doesn't actually reach the customers. It doesn't indicate anything. I've seen literally one company in the history of me working with, I've probably seen thousands of companies actually use NPS in a way that worked, and they had thousands and thousands of users. And that would be probably the only way that NPS would work, is if you have so many people to survey that you're going to get a significant number that can actually tell you trends. The biggest challenge, I would say, is that you're surveying a few people, right? Even if you have 100 companies or 200 companies, you're not going to get a number that is significantly that is accurate in terms of the state of your customer feelings to show trends. So what are we going to do instead? Well, let's measure things like, obviously retention is a great metric, but that's also a lagging indicator. Let's measure how they're using the product. Let's understand, what do our customers need to actually achieve in order to renew and expand. Let's identify those key moments and let's measure on that. Maybe your product can measure it. Amazing. Lots of companies already know that if customers are using 2 or more products or features or like specific features, right? Oh, I know that if you use, this feature and this feature, that makes you totally sticky. That's an indicator. That's exactly the leading indicator. And what's so amazing about that is that you can influence that. Okay, now we've got something. Let's make sure that we are delivering messaging and campaigns to our existing customers and new customers about those 2 features that we need our customers to use. So it's about finding the actual moments and impact that our customers need to hit in order to drive those revenue metrics. And it's all about revenue. Anyone who says, customer success is about making customers happy or whatever, like, who cares? Yeah, obviously we don't want our customers miserable using us, but like, you're never going to raise money. You're never going to have a successful exit, and you can't make payroll if you're with just happy customers.
And there's a great point. You can't make. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to share, Brian, who's been a long-time listener, sharing how Gartner's moved away from NPS as an indicator for future growth with accounts. And so his question back is customer improvement scoring still being used in your experience, Julie?
I don't even know what a customer improvement scoring is. Do you, Meg? I don't know what that is.
No, I don't either. Brian, enlighten us.
Yeah, maybe you could drop something in the chat here. And I think, Meg, you've got some history with Gartner too. So
yeah, well, I mean, it was a long time ago, and NPS, I don't even think but I have had a past life where I deployed large scale Net Promoter Score programs, and they are effective if you take action on what you're learning. I think the problem is a lot of people don't, but they are also very much a lagging indicator. I'm a big believer in what Julie's talking about in terms of really switching gears over to things that give you real-time insight. That's actually one of the beauties of companies that have a product-led growth model, and have effective insight into utilization of product or service. And because I work for a services company, and we can see, what are people doing, and if they're not doing the things that are on the path to good, you know you're in trouble and you know you need to do something to fix that. But Julie, I'd be curious to get your take. What do you see, since a lot of the folks we work with are marketers, what have you seen or what would you recommend as the most effective partnership between marketing and customer success? What things have you seen that work? Sort of what are the baby steps people could take?
Start talking to them. Right. Let's just talk about basic. So I did a training with a customer success team. I think it was earlier this week. Time seems to just blend these days, right? And marketing joined. And at the afterwards, what was really cool is I got a note from the product marketer saying, she learned so many stories from the customer success team in that 2-hour training that she can now go and use in her, like, all of her marketing content. And so, like, we all, often, like, I'll say, hey, marketing, go help out customer success, right? Think about how you can scale their efforts. Think about how you can get creative in supporting some of the things that they need to achieve. But also, you are going to get content gold from your customer success team. Like, I'm talking about gold. And if I can learn something from the B2C world right now, my husband has a dog treat and dog supplement company. I'll give it a plug. Go check out Greencraft. But what I've learned is that they can have almost the same content for general dogs, right? And it'll perform fine. But if you take that content and you specify it for, a Rottweiler, a lab, like if you say, like, this is for something for your breed of dog, it outperforms every single day. Okay, now let's take that to our world, right? If you have the same content, but you say people in this role, this persona, and you target it specifically for, again, like an individual or a type of role or persona, and you can reuse that content, but targeting it specifically to certain types of people, that's going to outperform. Now, where do you get this information from? Your existing customer base. And so using that both in net new leads, but then also one of the biggest challenges that customer success teams have today is accessing other people in their accounts. They get very siloed. And there's a whole slew of reasons for that. I'm not going to get into it, but it's definitely a really great way that marketing can help, right? We are masters at finding people, about getting new impressions, about getting new interest. And so do that within your existing accounts to help garner more interest, to help drive cross-sells, to help drive upsells, to help also with retention, right? If other people in your organization see the value or are excited by the value prop that your company can provide, then they're going to talk about it. They're going to take more interest in it.
I love your point on your husband's business model there of really getting that content very specific to the breed and seeing how it really resonates. And we talked earlier about kind of the end user use case of the feature functionality of products. What tips or tricks are you seeing maybe for the executive sponsor who may not use the product in this environment right now? What are you seeing or advising people to do to kind of consider their to get buy-in or support? And when are you making that buy-in support request?
We need to be really respectful of people's time, right? Time is so valuable, and it just seems like, the more access we have to all these different tools, the less time we have. And so people will want to work with you if you are going to be respectful of their time, and they know that when you're spending that time with them, that they're going to get value out of it. And so I think the days of, oh, hey, we're going to do this QBR and we're going to expect the decision makers and the executive, stakeholders to join when they don't know what they're going to get out of it, or they're gone, right? It's just, there's just not enough time to deal with that. And so when you interact with a decision maker, we need to give them value. We need to give them insights. We need to elevate them in terms of what they care about. And so I think we miss out on a lot of that opportunity and we know a lot about our customers. And we know a lot about how, we can give them insights about, things that they didn't know in the past, right? And so sharing that and just getting them interested as opposed to showing them results, and then challenging them. Hey, some of our customers are achieving this type of impact, or, is that something that's relevant to you? Are you interested in that? And just being simple, throwing that in an email communication, sharing a video, and inspiring them to, think about things that they wouldn't necessarily have exposure to, because you have hundreds or thousands of customers using your product or service that can really, that they don't have that insight into. So taking advantage of that.
Julie, I think that's another kind of innovative way you're looking at this space. I think we focus so much on customer stories to get people to buy, and we don't focus anywhere near enough on customer examples post-sale to inspire people to say, here's how somebody who looks like you is really getting impact from our product, and here's what it took for them to get there. And then I think I was also interested in that initial slide that there was a decent percentage of people, 23%, that had a customer community. But I think that's something that Influitive was sort of onto, and other companies in that early advocacy space were kind of onto, about saying it's can you get essentially social proof from your existing customers to show what goods looks like, but then also create an opportunity for them to talk to each other, so it becomes sort of extra sticky. What have you seen sort of evolve in that space in terms of advocacy, customer engagement, sort of getting those proof points for customers post sale?
Yeah, I think I've been thinking a lot about that, actually, because we're in such a new world right now with different opportunities with AI and, being able to do more sophisticated integrations. I think if Influitive were to launch today, it would be a very different company. Our Achilles heel was always having to rely on, a lot of manual work. I think we could have, hopefully they're doing some of that work right now with their product. But this is a really, there's a lot you can do around, the technology piece to help elevate that and to help, spread the voice. I would say on the community piece, I'm curious what you think about this, because obviously communities are important. And also we're so distracted with, how many we join. I have 5 Slack channels that I don't check. Right. And so is there a way for companies to go where their customers are already, as opposed to creating another space? And like, these could be other social platforms, right? Like, I don't know. I mean, it seems like your age sort of determines where you live on socials. So, apparently I'm going to age myself by saying that, yes, I still go on Facebook, but that's my source of information for, where I live. And then, is your generation of customers on Instagram? Are they on TikTok? Where are they? And how can you connect with them where they already participate?
Yeah. Great point.
All right.
No, I think and actually that's advice I've been hearing too, that, our customers are passing on to us. And then the other thing is literally going where they already are. So one of the things that we've done is incorporate community engagement, whether it's a CIO council or other kinds of meetups of executives at our signature events, because they're already going, right? So you might as well make that the moment that you ask them to spend a little bit of time, or you carve time out of the event to bring them together. Because to your point, the noise of all the different things, making a separate trip is really hard. But going to, and also doing hybrid, kind of virtual and in person. I think for those meetups, we focus more on the executive audience. So it's a smaller sort of community and very specialized, but that's what we're seeing work right now. It's physically going where they are, but I think your point about sort of habit-wise going where they are too, really great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, going, if you can get their attention where they already are, where they don't have to spend extra time, they don't have to get on another plane, but also when after the fact, it's like, oh, that was worthwhile. Right. I would go again. So
awesome. Well, I think we are just about out of time. Julie, any last thoughts here as we wrap up?
Look, I think that there's a lot that can be done, but also if we just say, like, I'd be super curious, how often do you as marketers talk to your customer success team? And not just as leaders, like how often do you sit down and really hear the customer stories, hear how the impact they're getting, and just start there. And I think as marketers, you're going to get really creative. You're going to be inspired. You're going to get that spark of inspiration. And so I think let's just start there.
I love that. And, I used to say, if you're not going on sales calls pretty regularly, you're missing out as a marketer. I'm going to add, if you are not spending time and listening to your customer success calls and understanding their world, you're also missing out just as much. So let's make that the call. Let's make that our soon to be New Year's resolution. We're all, as marketers, going to spend more time with our friends in customer success. Or if you don't have that, account management. Just hear what your customers are saying, and you're going to be inspired every time. Julie, thank you so much for being here with us today. Super happy to have you.
Thank you so much. It was a lot of fun. I always love chatting with you.
And Julie, best way to reach you is at LinkedIn, or do you have an email address if somebody has questions?
LinkedIn's great. LinkedIn's great. I share a ton of content on LinkedIn, thought of the day, whatever.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Fantastic experience. I forgot, as you brought up Influitive, they were really the pioneers in all of this community thought process. So between that and your winning by design experience, I'm sure that lends well to your new venture. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. I'm having a ton of fun.
And so that wraps it for this week. Next week, we've got Bethany, who will be joining us. She's an expert at the sales enablement and sales coaching function. And she turned me on to an incredible AI tool, which we'll go through next week. You don't want to miss it if you're selling yourself into a new job opportunity, or if you're an SDR or sales, or even in marketing. I think you're going to get a lot of mileage out of next week's conversation. So if you can, join us.
All right. Happy Friday, everyone. Thanks for joining us.